A distress signal. The signal came from deep space, a tachyon burst of desperation and fear that rippled across the cosmos. It originated from Zephiria Prime, a lush green world orbiting a yellow star not unlike Earth's own sun. For centuries, the Zephirians had lived in peace, their civilization advancing steadily in the sciences and arts. But now, that tranquility lay shattered, as the ruthless Brax dominion fell upon their planets, conquering and enslaving all who stood in their way. In their darkest hour, the Zephirians looked to the heavens for salvation. They knew of Earth and its warrior people from legends and astronomical surveys. With their fleet in ruins and cities ablaze, the Zephirians had little choice but to place their fate in these fearsome beings from the Orion Spur. And so, with trembling hands, they activated their furthest-reaching communication array and broadcast a desperate plea into the void. Light years away in the Teran system, the distress signal reached its destination. On the bridge of the TDN Athena, a sleek destroyer patrolling the solar system's edge, the communications officer frowned at his display. "Captain Petrova, I'm picking up a high-priority tachyon transmission from Zephiria Prime. They're under attack." Captain Mila Petrova strode over, her dark eyes scanning the message's contents. "Notify Fleet Command immediately. If the Zephirians are crying for help, you can bet it's serious." At Fleet Headquarters in Brussels, Admiral Jenna Hayden read the alarming transmission, her brow furrowing. She had risen through the ranks of the Teran Defense Navy, proving herself time and again in skirmishes with pirates and rogue states. But this was something far graver, an entire planetary system besieged by the galaxy's most rapacious empire. "Summon the fleet," Hayden ordered, her voice steely with resolve. "We leave for Zephiria within the hour." Klaxons blared throughout the Teran shipyards as regiments of grim-faced Marines boarded their dropships. Corvettes, frigates, and battlecruisers slid out of their berths, powerful engines flaring to life. At the heart of the formation, the TDN Orion ascended from its orbital dock, the moonlight glinting off its angular hull. The pride of the fleet, it would serve as Hayden's flagship for the critical mission ahead. On the Orion's bridge, Hayden watched the blue curve of Earth recede on the viewscreen, replaced by the star-flecked canvas of space. She knew many of the brave souls under her command might never see home again, but they had sworn an oath to defend the innocent, no matter how distant, and the Terrans always kept their word. "Helm, set a course for Zephiria. Maximum superluminal velocity," Hayden commanded, her gaze fixed on the glittering vastness ahead. "Let's show the Vrax why no one messes with our corner of the galaxy." As one, the Teran fleet leaped to faster-than-light speed, hurtling across the interstellar gulf. They raced against time and tyranny, determined to draw a line against the darkness. The galaxy trembled in their wake, for the children of Earth were on the march once more, and wherever humanity went, change and hope were sure to follow. Arrival at Zephiria. The Teran fleet emerged from superluminal velocity at the edge of the Zephiria system, their hulls shimmering with Cherenkov radiation. On the bridge of the TDN Orion, Admiral Jenna Hayden gripped the command console as the viewscreen resolved into a scene of chaos and destruction. Zephiria Prime hung before them, its verdant surface marred by the scars of orbital bombardment. Clouds of debris cluttered the space around the planet, the remnants of shattered Zephirian defense platforms and warships. And in the midst of the carnage lurked the Vrax Armada, their angular black dreadnoughts bristling with weapons. "Admiral, the Vrax are launching fighters," the sensor officer called out, his voice taut with tension. Hayden's eyes narrowed as she watched scores of enemy attack craft streaking towards her fleet. "All ships, assume battle formation Delta 6, she ordered, her voice calm and cold as steel. "Fighters, move to intercept. Let's show them what Teran steel can do." The space between the two fleets erupted into a storm of laser fire and missiles as Teran and Vrax strike craft clashed in a deadly dance of skill and reflexes. The human pilots, each a veteran of countless battles, tore into the enemy squadrons with ruthless precision. On the planet below, the Zephirian High Council huddled in a fortified bunker, watching the orbital battle unfold with a mix of awe and trepidation. They had heard tales of the Teran's prowess in war, but to see it firsthand was another matter entirely. "By the gods, look at them fight," whispered Chancellor Zoran, his eyes wide with disbelief. "The Vraks outnumber them 3-1, and still the Terrans advance." As the dogfight raged above, Admiral Hayden turned to her Marine commander, Colonel Alexei Petrov. "Colonel, prepare your troops for ground assault. We need to secure the Zephirian leadership before the Vraks get their claws on them." Petrov, a bear of a man with a scar running down his left cheek, nodded grimly. "Aye, Admiral. We'll make sure those tentacled bastards never set foot in the High Council's chambers." As the dropships loaded with Petrov's Marines launched from the Orion's hangar bay, Hayden returned her attention to the main battle. The Teran ships were holding their own, their superior tactics and technology countering the Vraks' numerical advantage. But the enemy flagship, a monstrous dreadnought bristling with particle beam cannons, was pushing aggressively into the heart of the Teran formation. "Concentrate fire on that dreadnought," Hayden commanded, her eyes blazing with determination. "We take out their command ship, and the rest will fold." The Orion shuddered as a volley of Vraks missiles slammed into its shields, alarms blaring across the bridge. But Hayden remained unfazed, her gaze locked on the enemy flagship. "Divert power to forward batteries," she ordered, her voice cutting through the chaos. "Prepare to fire on my mark." As the Orion's weapons charged to full capacity, Hayden whispered a silent prayer to whatever gods might be listening. Then, with a final defiant roar, she gave the command that would decide the fate of Zephiria, and perhaps the galaxy itself, turning the tide. As the Vraks dreadnought reeled from the Orion's devastating barrage, Colonel Alexei Petrov's Marines stormed the Zephirian High Council's bunker. The massive blast doors parted, revealing a scene of controlled chaos within. Zephirian guards and officials rushed about, coordinating the planet's desperate defense. Chancellor Zoran stepped forward, his robes billowing in the air currents from the opening doors. He extended a slender, four-fingered hand to Petrov, his large, dark eyes filled with gratitude and relief. "Colonel Petrov, I am Chancellor Zoran of the Zephirian High Council. Your arrival is most timely. We had feared all was lost." Petrov clasped the alien leader's hand firmly, his battle-scarred face softening slightly. "Chancellor, on behalf of Admiral Hayden and the Teran Defense Navy, we're here to help. What's your situation?" As Zoran briefed Petrov on the dire state of Zephiria's defenses, the Marine commander's mind raced, formulating strategies and contingencies. The Vraks had already overrun most of the planet's major cities, their ground forces far outmatching the Zephirian militia. But with the Teran fleet now controlling the orbitals, there was a chance to turn the tide. "Here's what we're going to do," Petrov said, his voice gruff with determination. "My Marines will help your forces establish defensive perimeters around your remaining population centers. We'll use our dropships to ferry supplies and reinforcements wherever they're needed. And with our air support, we'll make the Vraks pay for every inch of ground they try to take." Over the next several days, the combined human and Zephirian forces mounted a fierce resistance against the Vraks invaders. Teran Marines, armed with advanced power armor and plasma weapons, fought side by side with Zephirian soldiers, their shared resolve forging an unbreakable bond between the two species. In the skies above, Teran strike craft wreaked havoc on Vraks' ground formations, raining destruction upon the enemy's armored columns and supply lines. The Vraks, accustomed to the meek surrender of their previous conquests, were wholly unprepared for the tenacity and resourcefulness of the human Zephirian alliance. At the forefront of the counteroffensive was Colonel Petrov, leading his Marines in daring raids and surprise attacks deep behind enemy lines. In one such mission, Petrov's team infiltrated a Vraks command post on the outskirts of the capital city, Zephyr Prime. Amidst the chaotic close-quarters combat, Petrov found himself face to face with a towering Vrax commander, a prince of the Imperial bloodline. The two warriors locked in a brutal hand-to-hand struggle, Petrov's augmented strength pitted against the Vrax prince's lightning-fast reflexes. In the end, it was Petrov's indomitable will that prevailed. With a final, crushing blow, he subdued the Vrax prince, the alien slumping to the ground unconscious. As Petrov's Marines secured the command post, the colonel activated his comlink with a weary grin. "Admiral Hayden, this is Petrov. We've captured a high-ranking Vrax commander. Looks like a prince of some sort, requesting immediate extraction for interrogation." On the bridge of the Orion, Admiral Hayden allowed herself a small smile of satisfaction. With a Vrax royal in their custody, they now had a chance to gain valuable intelligence on the enemy's plans and capabilities. "Well done, Colonel," she replied, her voice rich with pride. "We're turning this fight around, one battle at a time. Let's keep the pressure on and show the Vrax the true meaning of human determination." Taking the fight to the Vrax. In the interrogation chamber aboard the TDN Orion, the captured Vrax prince sat motionless, his serpentine eyes fixed on the far wall. Admiral Jenna Hayden studied the alien's regal bearing and ornate armor, a reminder that this was no ordinary prisoner. "Prince Zurax of the Vrax Imperial bloodline," Hayden began, her voice cool and measured. "Your forces have invaded a sovereign world and slaughtered countless innocents. By any measure, that's an act of war." The prince's lipless mouth curled into a sneer. "You humans are newcomers to the galactic stage. You know nothing of the Vrax Dominion's divine right to rule. Zephiria, like all lesser species, exists to serve our empire." Hayden leaned forward, her eyes narrowing. "That's where you're wrong, Prince Zurax. The Teran Alliance believes in the right of all sentient beings to live free from tyranny, and we're prepared to fight for that belief." The prince's laughter was a hissing rasp. "Fight? You have no idea of the Vrax's true power. Even now, our main battle fleet gathers at Caldero Station, ready to crush your pathetic resistance." Hayden smiled thinly, a predatory glint in her eyes. "Thank you, Prince Zurax. That's exactly what we needed to know." With the intelligence gleaned from the captured prince, the Teran fleet set course for Caldero Station, a heavily fortified Vrax stronghold deep within their empire's territory. It was a daring gambit, striking at the heart of the enemy's power. But Admiral Hayden knew that victory often favored the bold. As the fleet approached Calderos, they found themselves facing a massive Vrax armada, hundreds of warships arrayed in a bristling wall of firepower. The Teran ships, sleek and agile, wove through the enemy formations, their advanced targeting systems seeking out weak points in the Vrax's defenses. On the bridge of the Orion, Hayden watched the battle unfold, her hands gripping the command console with steely resolve. She had faith in her ships, her crews, and the rightness of their cause. But even so, the sheer scale of the Vrax force was daunting. "Admiral, we're picking up a new contact," the sensor officer called out, his voice edged with excitement. "It's the Zephirian fleet." Hayden's eyes widened as a phalanx of Zephirian warships, their hulls gleaming with freshly repaired armor, dropped out of superluminal velocity and joined the fray. At their head was the ZNS Zenith, the flagship of the newly crowned Zephirian king, Aldrich Zorin. "People of Earth, the Zephirian Star Empire stands with you." King Zorin's voice rang out over the comm channel, filled with gratitude and determination. "Together, we will break the Vrax's grip on the galaxy and forge a new era of peace and freedom." With renewed vigor, the combined Teran and Zephirian fleets tore into the Vrax armada, their weapons cutting swaths of destruction through the enemy's ranks. The Vrax, unused to facing such fierce resistance, began to falter, their lines breaking under the relentless onslaught. As the battle reached its climax, Admiral Hayden received an urgent transmission from Colonel Petrov. The Marine commander, leading a covert strike team, had infiltrated Caldero Station itself and uncovered a shocking discovery. "Admiral, the Vraks are holding human prisoners here," Petrov reported, his voice thick with anger. "Civilians, women and children. They're using them as slave labor to fuel their war machine. We have to get them out." Hayden's jaw tightened, a cold fury burning in her veins. The Vraks' cruelty knew no bounds, and she would make them pay for every innocent life they had shattered. "Colonel, you have your orders," she said, her voice like tempered steel. "Bring our people home. And send the Vraks a message they won't soon forget." An uneasy alliance. The Battle of Caldero Station marked a turning point in the war against the Vraks' dominion. With their main battle fleet shattered and their stronghold breached, the Vraks were forced to retreat, their grip on the galaxy loosening with each passing day. But even as the Teran alliance and their Zephirian allies savored their hard-won victory, Admiral Jenna Hayden knew that the struggle was far from over. The Vraks' emperor, a ruthless tyrant known as Dravox the Unyielding, would not let such a defeat go unanswered. In a bid to end the conflict once and for all, Emperor Dravox extended an offer of peace to the Teran alliance. Wary of Vraks' treachery, Hayden and her Zephirian counterpart, King Eldrick Zorin, agreed to meet with the emperor's envoys on the neutral planet of Taraxis Prime. As Hayden and Zorin stepped off their shuttle onto the windswept surface of Taraxis Prime, they were greeted by a delegation of Vraks diplomats, their serpentine faces inscrutable. At their head was Prince Zurax, the once captured royal now serving as his father's emissary. "Admiral Hayden, King Zorin," Zurax began, his voice dripping with false cordiality. "My father, the great Emperor Dravox, has seen the wisdom in ending this destructive conflict. He proposes a truce, a chance for our peoples to coexist in harmony." Hayden's eyes narrowed, her instincts warning her of a trap. She glanced at Zorin, seeing the same unease etched on the Zephirian king's face. "And what would be the terms of this truce, Prince Zurax?" Hayden asked, her voice carefully neutral. The Vraks prince smiled, a thin, reptilian expression. "Why, the Vraks' dominion would withdraw its forces from Zephirian space and cease all hostilities against the Teran alliance. In return, we ask only that you recognize our rightful claim to the disputed territories along our border." Zorin's eyes flashed with anger. "Those territories belong to the Zephirian people, bought with the blood of our ancestors. We will not surrender them to Vraks' tyranny." As the negotiations dragged on, Hayden found herself growing increasingly uneasy. Something about the Vraks' sudden willingness to compromise rang false, and she couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking into a trap. Her suspicions were confirmed when Colonel Alexei Petrov, leading a security detail on the planet's surface, intercepted a coded transmission from a Vraks ship in orbit. The message, once decrypted, revealed a chilling truth. A group of Vraks hardliners, led by a rogue general, were planning to sabotage the peace talks and reignite the war. "Admiral, we have to act fast," Petrov urged, his voice taut with urgency. "If those Vraks extremists have their way, this whole summit will go up in flames." Hayden's mind raced, weighing the risks and options. She knew that exposing the Vraks plot could shatter the fragile truce. But the alternative, allowing the hardliners to plunge the galaxy back into war, was unthinkable. With a heavy heart, she made her decision. She would confront Prince Zurax and the Vraks delegation, laying bare the truth of their deception. And if the extremists made their move, she and her allies would be ready to meet them head-on. The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance, and Jenna Hayden would not let it fall to the forces of tyranny and oppression. Not on her watch. The line in the stars. The peace summit on Taraxis Prime erupted into chaos as the Vraks hardliners made their move. Admiral Jenna Hayden watched in horror as a series of explosions rocked the negotiation chamber, sending dignitaries and guards alike diving for cover. Through the smoke and debris, Hayden caught a glimpse of Prince Zurax, his face contorted in rage as he drew a plasma pistol from his robes. The Vraks royal had played his part well, feigning cooperation even as he conspired with the extremists to sabotage the truce. But Hayden had come prepared for treachery. With a barked command, she ordered her security team to engage the Vrax conspirators, while she and King Aldrich Zorin made a desperate bid to escape the chaos. As they raced through the shattered corridors of the summit complex, Hayden's comlink crackled to life. It was Colonel Alexei Petrov, his voice strained with the sounds of battle. "Admiral, the Vrax extremists have seized control of the orbital defense platform," Petrov shouted, his words punctuated by the roar of explosions. "They're preparing to fire on the planet's surface." Hayden's blood ran cold. If the rogue Vrax elements gained control of Taraxis Prime's orbital weapons, they could hold the entire planet hostage, or worse, spark a conflict that could engulf the galaxy. With grim determination, Hayden and Zorin fought their way to the planet's spaceport, where a Teran shuttle awaited them. As they blasted off into the turbulent skies, Hayden opened a channel to the TDN Orion, her flagship waiting in orbit. "All ships, this is Admiral Hayden. The Vrax have betrayed the truce. I repeat, the Vrax have betrayed us. Engage and destroy any hostile forces around the defense platform. We cannot let them turn those weapons on the planet." The Teran fleet, joined by their Zephirian allies, surged towards the orbital platform, their weapons blazing with righteous fury. The Vrax extremists, caught off guard by the sudden onslaught, fought back with the desperation of cornered beasts. As the battle raged in the void, Hayden and Zorin boarded the Orion, taking command of the Allied forces. With each passing moment, more and more of the Vrax hardliners fell to the combined might of the Teran and Zephirian fleets, their treachery repaid in fire and blood. In a final, desperate gambit, the last of the Vrax conspirators attempted to overload the defense platform's reactor core, threatening to destroy the entire facility and rain devastation upon the planet below. But Colonel Petrov and his Marines, having battled their way to the heart of the platform, met the fanatics with unbreakable resolve. In a brutal, close-quarters firefight, Petrov and his team put an end to the Vrax threat, sacrificing their own lives to save countless others. As the platform's reactor stabilized and the last of the extremists fell, a bittersweet silence descended upon the battlefield. The Vrax Emperor, his schemes of conquest and betrayal laid bare for all to see, had no choice but to capitulate. The war was over, and a new era of peace and cooperation dawned upon the galaxy. But Admiral Hayden knew that the price of that peace had been high. As she stood on the bridge of the Orion, gazing out at the stars that had borne witness to so much sacrifice and valor, she made a silent vow. Earth and its allies would stand as a bulwark against tyranny, a shining beacon of hope and justice in a galaxy beset by darkness. For as long as humanity drew breath, they would hold the line against those who sought to bend others to their will.